Hello everyone, welcome back for another video. Today I want to go over my impressions of the new Beelzemon deck, of the new support and everything that came with it. To start off, I want to talk about the deck's competitive viability. I think the deck is super good. I like a lot of the changes they made with the advanced structure deck. I like how it still feels like that Beelzemon strategy where you're trying to mill a ton of cards, get value off of send from the top of your deck to the trash, and it feels a lot more thoughtful than I originally anticipated, as the old Beelzemon deck was very much a kind of unga bunga, just go face type of strategy. It is still a very aggressive strategy, but there's a lot more decision making using the new Rivals Barrage and Iron Mako to carefully select which part of your pieces are going where and how to carefully use your memory. And I think the deck is a lot more skillful than I at first anticipated. It is still a casino style of deck, very dependent on what kind of mills you are getting. There's often situations where the deck will try and choke an opponent and instead be put to 0 because they gained a memory when they weren't anticipating. But that can also lead to big explosive plays when they mill just the right cards that give them a lot of different advantages. I think the deck is very good, probably a tier 1 contender going into the format. It has a lot of power, it has a lot of threats, being able to warp digivolve from their rookie to their champion for almost no memory, while possibly applying 4 checks at any given moment once they've achieved their 20 in trash threshold. The deck is very solid, very strong, and does a lot of really interesting things that still feel in line with what purple is trying to do as a color. It is one of the first successful archetypes in purple, I will say. In terms of what the advanced deck does, the advanced deck I think is a really good purchase for a lot of players. If you're trying to get into the game, it has an almost complete strategy. It is unfortunate that one of the star cards of the deck is going for a pretty large value on TCG Player as of this moment. But if you had these already, picked them up in the past, or are just willing to drop the dollar for this card alone, almost every other card you need to play a Beelzemon deck comes in the structure deck. There are a couple cards, including Rivals Barrage and the Impmon, that the deck only has 2 of, and it is unfortunate that people are going to be swayed to buy 2 of the structure deck because you need 4 of those cards generally. They're some of the best cards in the deck, but you can also just pick those up as singles on TCG Player as well. So it's not that hard to get a competitive deck using this strategy. It's just unfortunate for the EX2 Beelzemon that has risen in price as this deck's release came closer and closer. There are builds I've seen that only need 2 of the EX2 Beelzemon, and I guess if you're trying to play on a budget, that is definitely an option just to play a minimal copy. Although, I will say that deck definitely feels like one of the strongest cards in the deck by a large margin. It's one of the best cards in mill, and just digivolving into it raw, getting that mill and deletion effect from it is pretty powerful. It's definitely one of the all-stars of the deck, and the new support just benefits this card so much, so it's probably a card you do have to pick up if you want to play this deck competitively. Despite missing this card, I do think the structure deck has a ton of value. You get the special promo cards, the different holographic reprints that are all pretty nice and of decent value. You also get every single card in this Beelzemon deck, and every single card of the deck is going to be hollow, which is really cool for people who like shiny cards. So you're buying a deck that has full hollowed out cards. You're getting a couple different extra cards. You're getting a cheap playmat. Obviously, if you've been in the game for a while, you might have already got your own custom playmat or ordered one online. But for those of you just starting out, it is cool that you get your own kind of playmat with a memory counter on it, as opposed to the old system where we had memory counters as little cards. Those were kind of cheap, but these definitely feel of a better quality, even though it is still like a paper playmat. You also get a couple of cheap Beelzemon-themed sleeves, which is really cool, since a lot of card games just give you the cards and just expect you to go off with it. But Digimon at least understands that, hey, you should probably sleeve your cards if you're going to play the game, and letting new players see that in the deck they purchase is really cool. So, now you get a way to protect your cards, make sure that these nice shiny cards are in fact protected. Most players who play any kind of card game already understand that, but someone who's brand new might not, and I think that's really cool they include that into this package. The deck also includes some really good reprints for the strategy. Almost everything you want to put in the Beelzemon deck is in the deck already, except for that EX2 Beelzemon. And maybe some auxiliary card like the old Iron Mako, which most builds aren't even playing. The Doberman, which is a very optional card. Mist Memory Boost, which is a card that's pretty cheap, so it's not too hard to pick up. And Calling for Darkness if you want to play it, although most builds don't. And the Purple Floodgates that are really good. And finally, the Pagumon Egg, which you do get one hollow copy of, but some builds like to play the Pagumon over the egg that they give you in the structure deck. So yeah, the deck is really good value. The only issue I mentioned before is that some of the key cards you are going to need another deck for, and it is a steeper price tag than most decks, where a normal structure deck might be like $10 plus tax. This one is a steep $30, so buying two $30 structure decks is definitely a minus, and I will say just pick up the singles of the cards you are missing. But other than that, that's pretty good value. Full holo deck, bunch of little accessories that help you start the game if you've never started playing, and you get some cool promos on top of that that are worth some good value. In terms of the individual cards that are in the deck, most of them are only going to be used in the Beelzemon strategy, but I do think that there are some really unique cards in this deck that could be flexed around to make some cool creative purple decks. There is the new Iron Mako Tamer, which is really cool, really good for the strategy. It's a searcher, it gains you memory, and it does a thing that's very unique that facilitates the strategy, helping you stack your mills so that you can mill what you need. Is one of the reasons the deck's going to be so strong, gaining so much memory from each turn, because this card can gain memory from itself and then stack a card that also gains you memory or some other kind of advantage. It is also a very niche card for some really janky rogue decks, because stacking any card on top of your deck is a very unique mechanic that not a lot of cards have in this game. So it lets you do some cool things like put a chaos degradation that you want to heal or something of that matter on top as you digivolve, so that when your Digimon triggers a recovery effect, you recover exactly the card you mean to recover. That's not really a very viable and competitive thing, and the card will definitely see more play in its home, the Beelzemon deck, but it's something cool to think about nonetheless. The other card that has a lot of cool competitive application is Rival's Barrage. Rival's Barrage is a crazy powerful card that is in the Beelzemon deck, but it also flushes out another very popular purple deck built around the 7-cost option in Beelstar. It is a very flexible card that allows them to snipe any Digimon of the highest level. This means that you don't have to succumb to some of the old options that Beelstar had to play to deal with really awkward threats, such as Happy Bullet Shower or Kokaida's Breath or Trump Sword. This gives you an option to really just deal with any of your opponent's Digimon, between Fly Bullet targeting anything level 6 and lower, and this card being able to target their highest level Digimon. This gives you the full spread of levels between two options, which is really cool for the Beelstar deck. On top of that, you can also play a more mill-centric Beelstar deck using things like Doberman to trigger its Send a Trash effect and possibly grab back a Beelstarmon from trash using its delay. This is a really cool card for that strategy, and it's possible it's going to be good in maybe some other decks, but Beelstarmon definitely gets a boost from this structure deck being released, and also just having that flexibility in the Beelzemon deck is going to be super, super nice. While it's not my preferred type of purple deck, I am really excited to see what Beelzemon brings to the metagame. I'm really excited to see what kind of dynamic it adds, maybe changing up some of the matchup spreads between different decks because of this deck's existence. It's a very unique playstyle of deck, very aggressive, built on the Warp Digivolve mechanic, which I think is a really cool mechanic that you should probably put more, as long as it's not too dangerous, because skipping levels is pretty powerful. And I think this deck is going to open up a lot of avenues into the format. Also, I see that because of the printing of Rival's Barrage, there could be a rise in the Beelstarmon deck, which is really cool. A very fan favorite purple strategy that has been around for a while. Although, when you're against any of these Beelzemon or Beelstar decks, it is going to feel at least a little frustrating on the receiving end when they high roll the hell out of you and just mill perfectly all game and are getting crazy advantage for basically just going through their line when they didn't expect it. But that's part of the experience, and I think the deck is really cool and going to bring a lot of unique elements to the format. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope everybody enjoyed. I hope you guys like my thoughts. If you have anything to say, make sure to do the YouTube thing down below, and I'll check you out in the next one. Peace out.